Welcome to the Chelsea Flower Show. I'm Stephanie, and today I'll be taking you actually onto the gardens where we'll meet the designers and hear more about the inspiration behind these beautiful spaces. We'll get a close-up of the planting schemes and reveal the hidden secrets that lurk within some of the gardens. Here's a little glimpse of some of the stunning gardens we're going to be visiting.
With Andrew, who was our saviour at Chelsea last year.
2 years in a row.
Yeah, you're the reason we got onto all of the gardens last year. Where should we start this year?
I think if we do something a little different, last year we saw a lot of the main avenue show gardens, the big ones. If we go down to the balcony and container gardens, we'll see if we can find a friend of mine, Rosemary, who has won gold for her garden and best in category. We'll pop on and see if we can find her.
All right. I'm here with Rosemary, who is celebrating a double victory because you got gold and best in category.
Best in category.
Oh,
so
congratulations.
Container gardens.
So container gardens and balconies.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about it?
Well, it's a very small space. It's only 4 by 3 meters, but we've got a series of black handmade clay planters going around the garden, planted with different, mostly New Zealand species or ones that grow in New Zealand, because it's got a theme of feels like home, and I originate from New Zealand.
So you brought home with you?
I have.
You were telling me about this bench, which is also from New Zealand.
It's from New Zealand. It is a 3,000-year-old piece of timber, kauri timber, Agatha australis, and it's been reclaimed from a swamp.
And is that how it survived, in the swamps?
Yes, absolutely. And then it's restored and turned into a beautiful bench with tables.
It looks as good as new. It looks just brand 3,000 years old.
I know. And we're sitting on it.
No, that's incredible. Just amazing. So your inspiration was New Zealand?
Yes. So it's a bit of a love letter to home. I've been in this country a long time, and it was just, plants you grow up are very kind of, I don't know, they bring back memories and things like that, evoke things like that. So it's nice to sort of have that sort of comforting environment, really, in a sense.
And how does the climate in New Zealand and England, how is it?
In some parts it's quite similar, but I've also used plants that feel like home. So we've got the Australian Dixonia antarctica, which is a bit hardier than the silver fern here. There's lots of New Zealand plants, but there's a couple of personal touches. This is a feijoa or pineapple guava, and they grow, we have them in the garden in Auckland and things, so, just a little bit around minding our home.
I absolutely love it. It's so incredibly peaceful with the sound of the water as well, and the 3,000-year-old bench.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much for showing us, and congratulations again.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, now we've seen the winning container garden, let's go and have a look at all of the others. They are all splendid in their own way. This is the St. George A Light Here balcony garden, made to relax with a morning cup of coffee or an after-work drink after the rush of city life.
This is like a balcony on one of those 1970s buildings that do have those tiles as the exterior.
It is, isn't it? But it shows how beautiful it can be, which is quite surprising.
Yeah, it is.
It does make you want to sit there. And the glossy green as a backdrop to the planting.
Yeah.
Delightful.
It's a really good backdrop.
This next balcony is the Folio Society's Reading Room garden. This is one of Davies' favourites. He really loves all of the little cubes against that dark blue wall.
The wood against the blue backdrop, I love it.
It reminds me a lot of your flat and the way you've styled your whole apartment. And the little nook of planting around the soft, squishy armchair for reading, that is nice.
It is, yeah.
What I love about this garden the most are the books, with a good mug of tea as well. And I like the choice of books. Pride and Prejudice, Little Women, Dune. So imagine the scent of the jasmine whilst you're reading a novel as well. Everything's been thought through so nicely. This is the Doorstep Libraries little balcony garden. Now that takes comfortable reading nooks to a new level, doesn't it? I like the way that appears to be like a little window looking through to another little garden beyond the farm.
And it's a mirror.
Oh, it's a mirror. That's what gives that illusion. Mirror in the garden. That's perfect.
And the little roof garden is quite sweet as well, with all the ferns.
This is the Restorative Balcony Garden, sponsored by Viking. And its aim is to show how consciously sourced materials can create a calm, relaxing space Nothing needs to come from afar. And I think this is one of the most delightful planting schemes. I love these colours, all of the blues and whites together. And what all of these gardens have got in common is that each of these balconies has a really comfortable space. They're all for snug sitting and enjoying the garden. This container garden is entirely based on the idea of the train stations, the overground train stations in and around London, and how community planting can be included into them. And there you really get the sense of the Victorian tiles that there are in all of those old train stations. That bees decided to come along and just show everyone how happy the wildlife is.
I think it's a really lovely combination of colours and foliage.
It is
Just
so
not
many
having-
different colours.
Yeah, not having everything in green is always quite interesting.
This is one of my favourite of the container gardens because there is such a mass of planting all around the edges. And that's because this is a very sensory garden designed for someone affected by Stargardts. With Stargardts, central vision goes, so only peripheral vision remains, and the loss of vision is represented by the large black water feature. But then everything around the edges is designed to smell wonderful, feel very tactile, a perfect sensory refuge for someone affected by that visionary loss. And I wish you were here to smell it and just to hear the bird song and the buzzing of the bees. It's a heaven. This is the Shifting Garden by the Chelsea gardener, and the idea of this is the shifting of our climate. And as climate change is bringing more and more drought, I mean, we certainly experienced that at Lalande, this is a drought-resistant garden. And again, everything, all of the materials are sourced locally. Who's designed the School Food Matters garden, and you say over 80% of this is edible.
Absolutely. So really the intention is to inspire and educate children about the bounty of nature. So trying to move away from plastic wrapped vegetables and supermarket shelves to something that's much more kind of immersive, scented, colourful, it's a much more kind of sensory experience. It's really just going to inspire children.
Well, I must say, I'm looking around thinking I obviously have no idea how to spot edible vegetables because I can see rhubarb and that's it.
So we've got lots of things that are more classic edibles. So obviously behind us here we've got all manner of deliciously scented herbs,
yeah,
thyme and chives and sage and rosemary. We've got things like artichoke and fennel, loads of asparagus dotted about the place.
Oh, asparagus, my favourite.
We've then got some other things that are maybe a bit more forageable. So classic things like hesperus, sorrel, silene that you might find in British hedgerows.
Yeah.
And then some really weird and wonderful things like these asphodeline here, which are these yellow spikes. They used to love them in ancient Greek times, so they sort of prized eating the roots. And then pomegranate above us, quince tree over there. So they are about, and I think once you start to notice
that's
them,
it. The minute you start looking closely,
absolutely. But
is that lettuce?
So we've got some lettuce, we've got radishes, beetroots, beans climbing up the trees, and so it's just about trying to, you start to notice it, but it's also, this could be a space that you just leave and enjoy the beauty of as well. And it's an 8 by 8 metre plot, and you can imagine it's an urban garden.
Yeah.
You can go out and kind of forage for your evening meal, or you could just sort of allow it to be a beautiful space.
You've made me so curious about, I'm going to call them the yellow spikes because I can't remember their name.
King spear, I think they're called.
King spear? What is it? Have you ever had it?
That is the one in here that I haven't tried yet because we had a very limited amount of them.
Yeah.
And we needed them all for Chelsea.
So at the end of the show, are you going to
we're rebuilding. We started today actually in London school called in Ealing, called Alec Reed Academy, and in Liverpool as well. So maybe I'll be allowed to have one. But yeah.
I'm going to look it up as soon as I leave.
Yeah,
it's fascinating. And it's so nice that it's going to a school.
Absolutely. I think that's the thing for us. It was, never wanted to be a wasteful endeavour. It had to have a life after the show. So every single element of the garden is being redesigned and then sort of located in 2 schools.
Yeah.
So.
And did you say this was pomegranate?
A pomegranate, yeah.
Does that grow in England?
I mean, in London, in the south, in sheltered locations, absolutely, and even last year, quite a lot of them fruited. I wouldn't say it's a reliable tree yet for the UK, for most of the UK, but you know, being a garden for children and school food matters, it really wanted to reference as well a changing climate. And you know, 2050, London's going to have the climate of Madrid. They say.
Yeah, it's going to have pomegranate.
So absolutely, a pomegranate may become a fairly common feature in gardens and
Such a strange thought.
Yeah,
but I like the way it links into the ancient Greek of that as well.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, a lot of classical.
You've got the history there too.
Lessons going on here as well. Yeah, absolutely.
It's great. Thanks so much for showing us.
Oh, thank you very much for coming.
Now, so we've come through to the food area. Philip looks quite tempted by the pulled pork.
Very tempted.
You, Davy?
Don't know yet.
Okay, a lot more research to be done.
Yeah.
Actually, that pulled pork does look better than I thought it was going to.
It does look good, right?
And that little chip looks as though it's just desperate to be eaten. Thanks.
This is a vegetarian Mexican burger.
Nice. You're certainly vegetarian.
Yes, there's a lot of salad.
And I have the mother of all bacon sandwiches. And although it's only our 2nd year at Chelsea together, the Babylon store in Rosé has become a bit of a tradition. Cheers. Cheers, Davy.
Cheers.
I went off piste. It's not a garden, but they have the loveliest dresses and pretty Indian cottons. Got this dress. It's actually really, really pretty. Shall I show you? What do you think, Davy?
Very colourful.
And that's as much as we're going to get from Davy.
It looks beautiful,
But Davy, this is for me to flounce around your garden in. See, it's for these flowers to embellish the garden.
Okay, no problem.
All right, let's get back to gardens.
I hope you're enjoying the Chelsea Flower Show so far. There are a lot more beautiful gardens still to come, but I've taken a little moment out of time. We are not at the Chelsea Flower Show. They have not suddenly built a French chateau there. We're at my home, the Chateau de Lalande, in the middle of France. I just popped back to the chateau to show you the dress that I got and also to show you a glimpse of the gardens that Davies is designing for us here at the Chateau de Lalande. On my other YouTube channel, the Chateau Diaries, I show daily life here at Lalande, and on that channel I also have a video of last year's Chelsea Flower Show. So if you'd like more Chelsea Flower Show action after this video, I will put a link to that here. And I'd also like to take a moment to tell you about the sponsor of this week's video, Babble. For those of you who don't know, Babble is one of the world's top language learning apps, and I've been using it for some time now to learn Dutch. I'll be honest, Dutch wouldn't have been my first language to learn. I was thinking maybe Italian, but my boyfriend Philip is Dutch, and in fact he's holding the camera right now and he's been filming all of the Chelsea Flower Show, so I kind of have to learn Dutch instead. And I have to say that Babble has made it such good fun, and I chose them because their intuitive lessons help you learn a language through real life conversations. Its lessons are designed by real language teachers, and Babble is scientifically proven to help you to start speaking a new language within 3 weeks. Their lessons prepare you to have practical conversations about travel, relationships, business, and more. So we can chat about our relationship all evening in Dutch. I'm not there yet, not quite. Hij spreekt Nederlands en Duits.
That's true. I do speak Dutch and German.
Hij spreekt Nederlands en Duits.
So if you've ever liked the thought of learning another language, maybe you would like to come and visit France one day, then just click the link in the description box below for 60% off your subscription, and Babble offer a 20-day money-back guarantee. Right, let's get back to the Chelsea Flower Show because there are a lot more beautiful gardens for us to visit. With Thea, and this is the garden that's for the Centre for Mental Health.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, of course. So this is the Centre for Mental Health Balance Garden. It was created by John Davies and Steve Williams, who are having a great time over there. And so this is basically a community garden for an urban environment and the whole community's mental health. So basically it's been made using lots of crushed and repurposed construction waste. So you can see that they've worked really with an urban environment as opposed to kind of in conflict with it.
Yeah.
So, and there's loads loads and loads of edible plants everywhere you go.
They're edible.
Yeah. So this is thyme over here.
Oh, I can see some kale.
Yeah, we've got some kind of kale, we've got mint, there's loads of watermint over here. There is pak choi and potatoes over there. And they're actually the tiniest little strawberries growing out of the cracks here.
Oh, the wild strawberries.
Yeah.
You can go foraging in your local park, especially the kale. I would never have imagined kale just growing like that in between cracks. The thyme you would expect.
Yeah, true.
So it's really amazing, and the idea is that we know that loads of people do not have access to any green space. In fact, 1 in 8 households do not have a garden. And so we're trying to say, we know it's great for people's mental health. Everyone should have access to it.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea, and it really does feel as though it's always been like this, and then plants have just naturally started growing through the cracks.
Exactly. You wouldn't believe this was built over the last 3 weeks.
No.
Yeah, I know. It's phenomenal what they've done, and the level of detail and intricacy is just beautiful.
And it just feels so wild.
Yeah, and that's what the idea is, creating a wild and natural environment in an urban landscape, you know, working with that to create something that's beautiful and brings hope and healing, really.
The best possible reason for creating a garden.
Well, exactly. So we're really excited about it.
Now we're going to go over and meet John and Steve, the garden designers.
It was interesting that you said it looked like a little part of the countryside, because the idea is that this garden is directly in the urban and industrial area.
Heavy urban.
And the idea is to try and create an authentic nature experience for that community that use that space. The legacy of this project is going to Markville Park in Tottenham. And so the idea is about working with local materials and how we can use repurposed materials rather than fresh in that local environment, and have a community steward that space with a very light touch. So you work with urban ecology principles, and you work with perennial vegetables, so that you can just have a light touch rather than a very intensive one. And you can get a really beautiful, layered, natural experience within the urban environment.
It's taken inspiration from these forgotten spaces and abandoned places where it's quite often we walk past every day, and there's so much inspiration to be gleaned from those, because there's just wildflowers growing through all sorts of literally waste, crushed waste. So we've got a lot of crushed waste going on here, which in the Legacy Garden will be sourced from next door. There's a whole plant that crushes concrete and brick all day long. So we're just going to strip back the existing topsoil to create contouring for food forestry, and then we've got the perfect environment to create habitat for boost diversity, boost biodiversity, get real immersive meadow landscapes in there.
And then at the heart of it, we've got the mushroom den again. So that's a different type of horticulture that's a little bit unusual to people. And the idea of creating this lo-fi and affordable setup where the community can grow and harvest mushrooms as well. So it's about engagement and about a sense of pride of the local area and the industrial history, and really celebrating that as being beautiful, but really enhancing that experience.
I was not expecting so many mushrooms.
Yeah, it's chocker in it. So the idea is that this is really lo-fi. This is just a shipping containers, but from outside we've just panelled it in steel.
Yeah.
But inside it's really low tech, quite accessible, quite relatable really. You can do this on much smaller scales than this. But here we've got loads of medicinal and gourmet stuff. So we've got cordyceps. They're really good for focus. We've got reishi. I take these every night, so they're really good for sleep. They stop brain chatter. I have a chatty brain at night time, so these just shut that. It's not that potent, but it just helps you go to sleep. Oyster mushrooms, as we're all commonly
delicious.
Aware of. Shiitakes are the biggest shiitake I've ever seen in my life. Up there. So these have all been grown by our grower Camellia Bros, who are in the pavilion. So they've supplied all these mushrooms, but we're hoping that this we're really fighting for it, that this will be a legitimate mushroom farm in the heart of that community space.
It's glorious.
So we're going to engage the local community to get those growers really passionate about this. And
I bet everyone who comes and visits us is like, I want one of these at home.
We're beginning to be known as the Mushroom Boys.
Is that something you were going for?
Not really, but I think this is the thing, like we've got so many pioneering ideas out there.
Yeah.
This has attracted people to it, so allow us to talk about that as well. So it's been great publicity for it, and this is a booming industry. So it's we feel like we're on the crest of a wave. So it's really, really exciting.
It is exciting, and it's making me incredibly hungry. Thanks.
No problem.
I think it's always lovely when you come to a garden show like this, that there's parts of the garden when you're looking at them from the outside you don't really notice from the onset, but if you're able to go into the gardens you can look at them more closely and actually see what's behind the facade, quite literally in this case, because the little building where the mushrooms are growing is a shipping container which has simply been clad. So I think it's a very efficient way of even making a simple garden shed out of something you just have to crane in, and it's finished. And then if you clad it in another material, it looks completely different, and you don't recognize the original form of it. So it's always quite nice to see something hiding in the backdrop.
As the secrets unfold,
Yeah.
the further you walk into them, the more you notice, and the minute you start speaking to the designers, it just brings it to life.
Yeah.
Because here you're looking and it's just things growing through cracks in concrete. And it does feel wonderful because it feels so natural, but really the thoughts behind it are what makes it so special. When you start to think, oh, hang on, these are edible plants. I hadn't noticed at first glance. I mean, here we have fennel behind us. It smells pretty good too, and it just makes me want to try a little bit. But no one was expecting the mushrooms. I think we can all say that none of us were expecting mushrooms.
There's the gazebo that we bought last year. I mean, not actually that gazebo because ours has arrived at Lalande. It hasn't gone up yet, but we've received the plans from Davies for exactly how to level the ground that it's going onto. And Anne-Marie's going to be starting work on it super soon. And I cannot wait. It's going in the middle of the walled garden, the vegetable garden.
Camellia, and she's very kindly invited us onto her garden.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, I love it so much. It's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It's a garden that has this green undertone. It's a sensory garden, so it's supposed to have this nice, calm, relaxed feel with just pops of colour for stimulation.
Yes, the smell is amazing as well.
Nice. We've got mint just down here that you've just brushed past, and then you've got some lemon balm, and there's lemon verbena that smells like lemon sherbet.
Oh yeah, so that's what we're picking up on as well.
Yeah.
So which bits did you choose for the sensory side of it in particular?
So I break the senses down into the 5 different senses. So there's an area for sight. So we've got the irises, and the aquilegias, and the silene for sight. And then for taste, the mint, the thyme, and the different herbs. And then for touch, just the soft plants like the stachys, the ballotta. So plants that just feel soft to touch. The soft plants are towards the front of the garden.
Yes.
So the garden it's as if the sun is over in that direction.
Okay.
So where we are now, it's moist shade, and so that's why this area feels quite calming, and it's just full of ferns
and cool. It's a really hot day today, and you stand here, it feels cool and lovely.
The water just kind of gives off some moisture into the air.
Yeah. The sense of sound comes from this beautiful water, and of course the wildlife that would be drawn to the garden, but also the water is not just for sound but for touch. Oh, the cooling water, it's so nice. And this garden was made for a charity called Aspens, which is for people on the autism spectrum and also people with learning disabilities. And that is why it's such a sensory garden without being overloading. It's very green, very peaceful. And these pots were made from the clay in the soil where the charity is based. They were made by the residents, and where there were little accidents and breaks, they've just potted them so that the plants spill out over the cracks. And then in the autumn, the residents take the pots into their own homes to look after them over the winter and keep that connection with the garden. It's a wonderful idea. I love the thought of a garden just speaking to all of the senses, not just the sight.
No, it's the things like the tree. So the tree is this big tall tree, and the idea that you'd have that shade, and so you feel that change in temperature. So it's thinking about your body and the movement. So the path is designed so that you feel the movement. Under here, it's like a gravel under the foot, but for wheelchairs, it's a wheelchair-friendly path. It means that they get a sensory experience. It's not just that solid, flat path.
Yeah, everything has been thought about, and it makes you want to stay and sit and stare at it for ages. We'll have our little cool rest here. Thank you so much for showing us.
Thank you for coming. It's really nice to meet you.
You too.
who's designed the RHS and Eastern Eye Garden of Unity.
That's correct. It's designed as a community garden, and the whole idea behind this garden is to bring different communities together. It doesn't matter what religion you are, what faith you are, what colour you are, what creed you are, what sexuality you are. Gardening is for everyone. The garden really has been inspired very much by my own childhood. I have Indian heritage as well as African heritage. The colours that you see behind you actually stem from the lovely sort of vibrant, bold, clashing colours of Indian women's saris. My mum wore saris when I was a child. I've always been surrounded by colour. It doesn't matter if you come from a wealthy family in India or you could come from the most poorest backgrounds in India, and they will pull out whatever they have, put it together, and somehow they make it work. Oranges and pinks always resonate with me and always remind me of India. The aubergine has a particular story because my mum was gifted a beautiful sari by my granddad, my paternal grandfather, when she married my dad. And that sari is covered in real silver threads. I still, every now and then, open the sari up and I take great joy from it, and then I fold it back up and put it back. So I've got the aubergine, and then I've got the silver through the silver foliage that actually weaves all the way through the planting scheme in this garden.
Oh, that is so touching. That's
so
the sari of your mother.
Yes, that sari has actually been woven into this garden. The pergola has actually been based on the most beautiful quote that really resonates with me. It's by Maya Angelou, and it says, "Be a rainbow in someone else's cloud." Now, the way I read into that is that if every single human being became a rainbow for somebody else, that other person then becomes a rainbow for another person, and actually wouldn't the world be a better place?
Yes, we need others to lift us.
Absolutely, and support us, and likewise we need to do the same for them, and the world would be a better place full of rainbows. That was the reason why I wanted to bring this gorgeous pergola into the garden, and actually it became my wedding mandap.
I was going to say, this is big congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. It's the first in the history of Chelsea.
The first wedding?
Yes.
And you married here on press day?
Absolutely.
This year?
Yeah. My partner and I have been together for 33 years, and we decided, yes, and we decided to finally tie the knot. So when I was asked to design this garden by the RHS, at the end of the meeting I said, would it be possible to get married on the garden? And it seemed so appropriate because we're both in the industry as well. So what a venue. So the garlands, which in my language, which is Gujarati, and in Hindi we call them toran. On a Hindu mandap, you always decorate the mandap with toran like that. My friend Simon Lysis was the person who was responsible for doing all of the floral curation around the garden. He curated the table there, and even on the table he's actually included photographs of family members, both of my family and Clive's family, who are no longer with us. In Hindu weddings you normally have people who have passed away, who are no longer with you, but they're there to give you a blessing, and that's how we've managed to actually have that table curated with the photos and the flowers from various different tropical regions. We've also got little bits of fruit and vegetables. So we've got okra, we've got ginger, we've got the little bananas, we've got sweet corn, we've got coconuts, we've got sweet potato, chilies, coriander and mint. So ingredients that are used in different cultural kitchens. We've actually managed to bring other communities in that way as well.
Oh, it's such a joyful table, and also you can't feel the senses here, but the smell. There's incense I see.
There's incense.
There as well, and all the flowers.
Yes, we've included jasmine and tuberose in there.
It's a heady fragrance.
Yeah, and we've even got a garland that has been made from sandalwood.
So that's adding to the scent as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I can see a very, very beautiful person
just peering at me from under a dome there.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is actually my grandmother. That is my dad's mum.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, she died when my dad was, I think, about 5.
Oh, no.
But it's really strange because I've always had this feeling of, throughout my career, that someone is there overlooking on me and kind of just guiding me, like a little guardian angel that's guiding me in every decision that I'm making about my life, my work, my career. And it was funny, I'm not a superstitious person, but one day friends of mine and I decided, oh, you know, we're gonna go to a tarot card reader. So I followed along and went there. And the first thing she said to me is that you've got somebody who is like a guardian angel. She's related to you, but you've never known her. You've never met her. And I thought, this is really strange because that's always been my grandmother. Yeah, I'd felt it. And she said, yeah, she's there all the time. She is behind you and she's the one who helps you make the decisions that you make in your life.
It always gives you goosebumps.
Yeah, yeah.
But also such a feeling of security and safety.
Totally, and that connection, although I've never known her, in some ways I actually do know her. Yeah. Because I can feel her all around me. Yeah, she's part of me. Yeah. And the whole feeling about the planting in this garden was that when you're sitting in this space, I want you to feel immersed and hugged by plants.
Oh, you've done that.
And that's what's really important, that you're actually immersed in nature. We've got artichokes here, we've got teasels, we've got poppies, we've got angelica, verbascum, cow parsley, artemisia, baptisia. People can come into this garden and they kind of forget the outside world, you know, because they are totally surrounded by plants. Because wherever you look, you've got planting. I've even introduced the Islamic faith into the garden. I've got 5 trees, Prunus cerulata Pink Perfection. They are drought tolerant as well, which is great because I think we need to learn to future-proof our gardens as well. I'm not Islamic myself, but I studied Islam for my religious education exams. I really thought that whole notion of having the 5 pillars as your faith was a beautiful thing. So those are the 5 trees, are the 5 pillars, and I've translated them as kindness, unity, understanding, empathy, and love, which is what we should all be basing our life on, and how we should be treating other human beings. When I came to live in this country, I've pretty much been a North London boy, and there's a strong Jewish community. When I was at school, I had Jewish friends, so I kind of wanted to pay a little bit of homage to the Jewish community as well. And so on the pergola, there is a mezuzah. Many people may not know what a mezuzah is, but Jewish families, on the posts of their front door, they have this little casket with a Jewish prayer written on parchment. And when they enter their house, they touch the mezuzah. You know, you've got the lovely Rajasthani door there, which just acts as a focal feature in the garden. We've even got a beautiful Ganesh, a granite Ganesh. When a Hindu marriage takes place, it always takes place in the presence of Ganesh. We've got a lime and some chilies hanging from the pergola, and they are to ward off the evil eye. My partner and I also have a place in Crete, so we kind of wanted to bring a little bit of that in as well. So Simon kindly got the Greek evil eye.
As soon as we came in.
Yeah, and he's actually included that in the garlands as well. You'll also notice huge limestone pentagon slabs, and each pentagon is a slightly different shape. And they're fragmented in the way they have been laid. We've used the waste to create these lovely sets. Now, what that represents is a broken society. It's the sets and the gravel that bring that broken society together. And we all know that actually when a broken society realizes that it is far better to work together, then they can actually create positivity in a community.
That's when wonderful things happen.
Yes. Exactly. I've kept the entrances and exits quite wide so that they have wheelchair access. But the other thing that I've really done in this garden is created messages in Braille on these posts. If, say, somebody who couldn't see came into this garden, they would be able to read what this garden is about.
Something for everyone.
Absolutely, and actually it's a sensory garden as well. There's so many lovely textures and scents in this garden that they will pick up on all of those lovely things and be able to enjoy this outdoor space.
And the sounds of the wildlife, because in an inner city area, this is going to attract so much wildlife.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hearing that will be wonderful.
Yeah, and we've created, you know, some water features, the water pots. That's going to draw wildlife in, so birds, butterflies, bumblebees, and even that in itself will ignite those senses as well.
You feel love surrounding you everywhere here. All of your senses are delighted.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. And where will it go?
So this garden is actually being donated to the Sacred Heart School in Battersea. It's in a really underprivileged area. This school has 80 nationalities of students who have absolutely no access to green space at home. So this garden is going to become their green space.
It's absolutely going to be fragmented community garden.
Absolutely, and I am delighted that the kids and the staff will be able to use this as their outdoor space. The children will learn to connect with nature, they will garden, they will learn to grow plants. Children need to have an outdoor space, and actually I think it's everyone's birthright to actually have a little bit of outdoor space, a little bit of nature, because if we disconnect from nature, then that means the end of humanity, I think. And this garden will make that happen for those kids.
Oh, congratulations. It's
Thank
such
you.
a moving garden. Thank you so much for telling us about it.
You're welcome.
Andrew, thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure and joy. This is my little bubble, and I just love sharing it with you and love sharing it with fans of Lalonde and all your friends. So thank you for visiting us.
We've been looking forward to it all year, haven't we, David? And it hasn't disappointed. You've been incredible.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure.
So next time we see you at Lalonde, I hope.
Yes. Finally get there.
Definitely. Bye.
Thank you so much. Safe travels. Have a good evening, and I'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Thank you. Take care.